Hello and welcome to Raise Your Vibes right here on KP Media TV. I'm your host, Athena Bahri, Reiki Master, award-winning author of Raise Your Vibes and creator of Crystal Reiki Healer, bringing you spiritual education, meditations, the gift of Reiki, and inspirational guests from around the world to help guide you on your journey to live happier and healthier. Thank you for tuning in. It is such a gift to be sharing energy with you here on KP Media TV. Today's show is sponsored by Westwood Clinic of West Los Angeles, California, where wellness is found with compassion, chiropractic care, and healing tools of the highest technology for your physical pain relief and healing. They are a certified MLS laser therapy facility, helping thousands of patients reclaim their health and overcome the limitations of living with pain. Find out more about this amazing healing space at westwoodclinic.com. And now we have a very special guest joining us today. Please welcome Regina Chauza, a Reiki master based in Mexico City, self-published author, and certified energy healer, reaching people around the world with Reiki classes, workshops, and energy healing. Regina, thank you for joining us here on Raise Your Vibes. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
I'm so happy to be here, Athena. Thank you so much for having me.
It's
a real pleasure. I've been following you for a while, and I really like everything you do. So happy to connect.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So wonderful to see you on this platform too. It's just fantastic. And I love working with fellow Reiki healers. So you do quite a combination of different healing modalities, right? You work between Reiki and then in your books, you mention energy healing. So what are the differences in your practices between just doing Reiki and what is Reiki and what is energy healing?
Yeah, I'd be super happy to answer that question. It's really funny because I started studying energy healing in 2010. And it's a type of like meditation where you start moving energy, bringing earth energy up from the ground to your heart chakra. You bring white light down from like the heavens to your heart, and then it comes out of your hands and you share it either with yourself or with the clients that you're working with. The energy healing class that I took was like super intense, like literally 18 weekends over 2 years and like dozens of case studies. And I was like head over heels, like in a rabbit hole mode when I was learning all of this.
Like more, I need more, right?
Like,
yes. Once
more.
you start,
you myself. Yeah,
exactly.
It was crazy and it was intense. And like the most frequent question I would get was, do you practice Reiki? Is it like Reiki? And I was like, I don't actually know what Reiki is. No. And I kept having that like little question niggling around in the back of my mind. And it just so happened that when I finished the energy healing school and I graduated, I wanted to volunteer in a cancer support center. And they only accepted Reiki practitioners. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go sign up for a Reiki class. And that's how I discovered Reiki.
Oh, I love that.
It was awesome, but it like my friends back then made fun of me to no end because I'd spent like all of this time in a super intense energy healing school with like visualization and meditation. And I took a 1-day Reiki class. And then from then on out, it was like Reiki is the best thing I've ever tried in my life. Like everything.
I so feel you there. Yes.
It's amazing. I was like, I can't believe that it's like one attunement in the class, the teacher guides you through it, and then you have it for the rest of your life. Like obviously there was a huge benefit to learning to work with meditation and moving energy, and that's helped me in like a lot of other ways in my practice. But the simplicity of Reiki just kind of blew me away. And like the past 10 years, I guess, I've been practicing Reiki, teaching Reiki, and like bringing the concepts of energy healing into it. But just like the simplicity of it, it makes it priceless in my point of view. I don't know what you think about that. No?
Well, I mean, yes, I happen to be of the same opinion. I loved it so much, I couldn't get enough. So I went and I studied with more Reiki masters, and I wanted different techniques, and I wanted not different techniques, but different backgrounds. When we when we study Reiki, we learn, once you become a Reiki master, that's not the end of the line. That's really like the beginning, and, to continue a life of learning. And so I thought, okay, well, I want to learn the original Japanese technique before it, went into the West. And then I want to study crystal Reiki. And so I kind of just kept going and getting more Reiki master levels with different teachers, which has been so valuable for my own practice, just because, you have these new perspectives, and each master kind of has their own personal touch, right?
Yeah.
Where you learn like your channel is open. You have it for life, but it's wonderful to have these different perspectives from, other teachers, and how they are able to channel it for themselves to others.
And
right?
I find that the energy kind of guides you to the teacher you need. And so like there was a point when I said, okay, I need to develop a little bit more counseling skills so that I know how to listen and how to respond. And when someone says something that makes me feel like awkward or uncomfortable because of what they're feeling, like you have to be able to hold the space for them. And it's like, do I cry with them? Do I like behave kind of a little more like stoic? Do I hug them? Like that type of thing. And like I landed with a Reiki teacher that had that kind of like grounding and background. And I was like, okay, I can't imagine that out of thousands of Reiki teachers, the one that I found was able to help me with this like little piece that I felt was missing. And it's like really an intelligence and like a sense of love that kind of guides you to what you need. And it's so easy to practice, and easy to share.
It's so easy
others.
to practice, so easy to share. And really, we all have the access to this beautiful energy. It's just about opening your channel to allow it to flow. I love that. So when you, in your book, you actually talk about, and I believe it's in this one, right? In the chakra healing, it's the one you talk about how important it is for the healer to also heal themselves, and how important it is to have this emotional separation from, not emotional separation, but this a way that you're
able to
draining
disconnect.
yourself, being able to disconnect from the client, so you're not draining your own energy. So I'm always a big advocate of the healer needs healing too. What are your methods of doing this, and why do you feel like that's important in your own practice?
I think there's like two areas that I've really had to focus on. One is as soon as you start working with Reiki or anything that has to do with intuition, your aura opens up and you become like a little bit more of a sponge. And so when you're working with somebody, it's really easy to start to like feel their emotions, to get a sense of like what they've been through, because you can feel it as if you were there. And that kind of tells you what to focus on in the session. But it's so important to let it go. Because we can take that with us when we leave the Reiki session, and like over time, like the Reiki healer can become like a little bit exhausted or tired or like overwhelmed. So having like a very strong practice of clearing my energy after a session, and I connect a lot with angels that I know you do too. Yes. So I'll be like, Archangel Samuel, please come with me. Archangel Michael, please come with me. And when the person leaves, I imagine them, or I ask, like, see them leaving with the angel. So I'm like, okay, they're taken care of. I don't have to keep worrying about them when they've left the therapy room. I always make sure I kind of ground, seal, and shield their energy with love before they go. And then I clear myself to let go of that as well.
Yes, grounding is so important. Yeah. Bringing ourselves back to ourselves, right? Because we do this wonderful healing and they feel great, but we don't want to leave tired. And part of the Reiki teaching is interesting because they say that this, at least with my first master, it was that when you're channeling Reiki and you're doing Reiki, none of it is coming from you. You're really the channel. So it doesn't deplete your energy. And Usui Sensei, loved this method because it didn't deplete his energy. Yeah. But then starting out as a Reiki student, many actually do feel this drain. So it's wonderful to just keep reminding that the healer needs healing, to continue to ground ourselves, and that really helps. And in your other book, Your Self-Healing Cancer and Love, you have a really powerful story in there about the loss of your father from cancer. So was this kind of the experience, because I know you had said you had gone to energy healing school after, was this kind of the experience that, pushed you out of the corporate world and into the energy healing world?
It's like quite interesting. My dad did get sick and he passed away from cancer when I was in high school and college. And like at the time, nobody in my family was into crystals or energy healing. Like we had tons of support from family members and friends, and that made like a huge difference throughout the whole process. But we didn't really have like a clear sense of how like emotions impact health, of how like whether or not we're ready to go to counseling to talk about how we're feeling and like how that kind of builds in the aura. And when I wound up in energy healing school 12 years later, and we were kind of looking at the link between really big like emotional upsets in people's lives and how that sometimes happens before they're diagnosed with an illness, I started getting like lots of little aha moments. Like I could see this happening in my dad's life here where he wasn't willing to talk about it, like, and kind of like stumbling blocks. And I think the book came out of me saying, okay, I've had my eyes opened by this intense energy healing class. And like, I kind of get the sense that people don't need to go through what we went through. And if they have that awareness of how important it is to work with your emotions on a daily basis, to talk about things that are difficult and to have that be a regular outlet for you, like, I really think that so many diseases, including cancer, can become less of a problem.
Yeah, and you talk about that in your book. You talk about how these stored emotions or these emotional traumas can be stored in different organs of the body, and how, you know, this emotional attachment, it's not necessarily that they're holding it. Sometimes it's not even a conscious thing, right? But that they're actually holding and storing these emotional traumas and these wounds within different organs of the body. So how would you recommend to somebody who's thinking, you know, well, I've been through this trauma or that trauma, how would you direct them in how they would be able to use energy healing to assess themselves? Like if they were to do self-healing, it is in your book.
Like I would say the most important thing is to be really attuned with our emotions, with how we're feeling, and like to understand that if we're angry, if we're upset, if we're like crazy with rage, it's not a negative reflection of us. It's like us needing to work through something legitimate that happened in our lives, that happens to anybody, and it's making sure that we have the support mechanisms to get through that situation. One of the things that I found like super problematic when I started volunteering in cancer centers is like there's a lot of talk about like anger and cancer being linked, and in some cases it can make it seem like it's the patient's fault that they weren't able to like release a grudge or let go, and that's why they got sick. And from my perspective, that's not it at all, and it does like a really big disservice to patients to talk that way.
I so agree. Yes.
And it's crazy because like I have a really unique background in that I worked in a pharmaceutical company when I was studying energy healing. So I was like,
I love how these two connect, right? You wouldn't be the first to leave the pharmaceutical life to go into energy healing. Absolutely.
And so I was like literally knee deep in clinical studies, in vitro studies, randomized controlled trials, which are when like they bring like hundreds of patients with lots of doctors supervising them, and they do like a really thorough statistical analysis. And at the same time, my guinea pigs for energy healing school were my coworkers and some of the scientists in the company. And at first I thought, okay, they're going to think I'm crazy, but they were like, the scientists in the company were like, we're doing an experiment, same as if we're doing an experiment in the lab. We'll track what you're doing. We'll see what the results are. Get out your pendulum. I don't want to mention the company just in case they don't want to be associated
it's
with this. But like literally learning healing while I was in a scientific / marketing environment, like helped me approach this with an open mind. And it just so happened that like more or less when I was writing my book, I discovered a really strong clinical study that was done by a university in China, where basically what they did was like analyze cases of women with breast cancer versus cases of women without breast cancer. And they can tie it back to like specific situations in a woman's life that elevate the risk of breast cancer happening.
And you're referring to like emotional events in
but
their
really
life.
Strong emotional events. So it's like literally the death of a child, the death of a spouse, forced relocation, like things that anyone would have a huge amount of trouble dealing with. And so when I looked at it that way, I thought, okay, like these poor women, they need more compassion, and they don't need anyone telling them you didn't get over what happened to you. Like seriously, who would be able to get over that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it completely shifted the focus into like whatever happened in their life, we need to approach it with sensitivity, with compassion, with love, and with understanding, and saying this person probably went through something that I might not have survived if I'd gone through it. And it's like how we can help them get through it now that they're in the treatment cycle.
Absolutely.
And then as they move out, to help them deal with their emotions, like reintegrating back into everyday life.
Back into everyday life. Yes, absolutely. And then, when I speak to clients who've gone through a lot of this emotional trauma, serious ones, not that everybody's pain is valid. But some are a lot more extreme than we would see in our daily lives. And I always say that we can't go back and, erase the trauma. We can't take it back. We can't change the past. But what we can do is work to release that emotional attachment to that pain. Because it seems to be that attachment where that starts to manifest itself into our physical body. And it's so often, I mean, if you look at, there's so wonderful thing is there are so many studies now about, how stress affects our life, how anger affects our life, how, these emotional events that you're speaking of can really have an impact on our physical health. And in Reiki and in energy healing, I imagine as well, a lot of this belief is that our, emotional, our spiritual, our pain there manifests itself into physical form. And so often we don't even realize that where this pain is coming from. So I love in the book that you have, kind of a detailed, list there of what emotional events or what emotions can be stored to which organ. I thought that was really helpful for it's one thing to just say, oh, well, there's an emotional attachment to an organ, but you actually have a breakdown of how the body stores these. And I thought that was just very helpful for anybody, looking to release this and release this attachment.
And it's like interesting because a lot of patients will see that list and they'll say like, yes, I can kind of see this pattern in my life. And what I've noticed is like, I really wrote the book for family members that are supporting someone that they love going through this experience. But I've noticed that it's like actual Reiki practitioners and complementary therapists that end up reading it and using it with their clients, which was like a surprise because I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Oh, isn't it wonderful how those things work out,
which is wonderful. Right? Yeah. Yes. And what I love specifically about Reiki is you don't need to know what the emotion is, because we have the distance symbol that we learned in the second degree of Reiki, and we have the harmony symbol. And so you can literally say, okay, I'm working with this person. I don't want to burden their mind, like having them wonder what emotion they need to deal with or what situation they need to look at, and just kind of send healing to the past, to the emotional aura layer, to the mental aura layer, and then also to like all of the cells in their physical body to help them through the surgery, through the chemo, through the radiations. And they get the benefit of the Reiki without being sent like on this wild goose chase, like mentally asking themselves what they could have changed. No?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we don't want to create that worry, right? This is not the point. The point is to release that emotional attachment, not to stir up,
not to stick into it. Yeah.
Worry about it. Exactly. We want to release that and not focus on it in that sense. Because we want them to be healthier, to be happier. I mean, when I started doing Reiki, it completely changed my life in the most incredible ways. And, at first, kind of like you're like, what? You're doing Reiki? Like, what is that? You're a witch. It was like all this, funny, comments. All of those wonderful comments, because people really do fear, what they don't understand. But Reiki is so gentle and as you said, so intuitive. So it really helps kind of direct you. If nothing else, it directs you to where you're meant to be on your path, almost like somebody turning on the light switch in that dark hallway, so that you can see one step in front of the other where you're going, which is so helpful. And then incredible for me in my own life with dealing with pain. I mean, I suffered for 16 years with the most debilitating back pain that ended in surgery. And it ended with a fusion surgery. And when I was healing from it, the standard protocol in a hospital is to give you medication and, try to get the pain, under control or manageable, as they say. And just nothing was working. I mean, it was so incredible. My jaw would shake. I was sobbing, crying in the hospital
Oh my
room.
gosh. Yeah.
My husband, they told me I'd be there one day, and I was there for 5. I mean, it was just like everything that you thought could be wrong was. And then at one point, like through these tears and these sobs, my husband leans over me. He's like, Athena, you're a Reiki master, for God's sakes. Do Reiki on yourself, like in this
Yeah.
desperate plea. And it was this incredible like light switch for me. This just like incredible moment where I realized, oh my gosh, I can do that. I can do that. So often people will think of, and myself included, we thought of Reiki as being this, nice, calm, like spiritual massage of sorts. You're, laying on a bed. There's maybe some candles or some incense, some crystals, everything's soft with the music. And this was absolutely nothing like that. And so often with patients that are dealing with cancer, it's the same. It's a traumatic experience. It's where they're living with pain. They're scared. Their fear is escalated. Their loved ones' fear is also escalated. Yeah. And Reiki kind of comes in this traumatic environment and just pulls everything down, like takes all of that fear and that pain and just really settles it. I mean, within 45 seconds of me starting my own, putting my hands and just, okay, I'm going to try, my body, I could feel everything calming down. I could feel my breath come back to me. My jaw stopped shaking. Suddenly I could see that I had people in the room. I didn't even know it was there. And so this was really like one of those moments for me that I thought, wow, okay, I knew it was wonderful before, but now I've
You're blown
really
away.
experienced. I was blown away. And other cancer patients, one of my best friends from childhood has been living with a very rare form of cancer. And during her chemo treatment, I was going down to San Diego and visiting her, every other weekend when she would have her chemo and help support her and do Reiki sessions. And really just one of the things that I thought was really powerful was her doctor had told her, one of the best things you can do for yourself is keep a positive mindset. And this is starting to be seen more in cancer treatment. That's one of the things the doctors tell them is you have to keep a positive mind. Like as soon as you give in to that fear, it's almost like you're just, you're giving up. And we want to help people raise out of this fear and help them, release the emotional attachment to this fear so that they can feel positive and feel hopeful and also energetically heal, because Reiki will then also, as the organs that you list in your book, Reiki will also intuitively go to those and help for healing as well. So it's been such a life.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And there are so many studies now. There are so many hospitals that are allowing Reiki now, Reiki practitioners to come in. Have you done any work like this? Have you gone into any hospitals or worked with outpatient care?
Yes, I've worked in hospitals in the UK and in Mexico, and I had a cousin that was treated for cancer in New York, and when he was there, I went to visit him a few times, but it was more of like the family connection than like a professional thing.
Sure.
I find that it helps massively, and like literally I would encourage Reiki practitioners to go to approach the hospitals. What I did notice is like every hospital has a different idea of what they'll let into the hospital. So I've had some hospitals that they tell me, no energy healing. We don't want to hear the word healing because we don't want to confuse patients in terms of them thinking that this is a treatment. It's a complementary therapy, so you can do Reiki. No? Then in Mexico, They told me, you can't mention the word Reiki. You can't mention the word energy healing, but you can guide meditations and take them through the whole energy healing process, but never use the word healing, never use the word aura, never use the word chakra. And like I ended up making it more like
how interesting.
Sun shining through your upper abdomen, your heart opens up, you see the projection of your mind or your emotions around you, like instead of saying the aura. And like all of this I discussed with the hospital, and they would literally bring me in for like meditations with like 300 people, and they're like, we love that you're sharing this with them, but we can't use these words specifically, but we love that they're getting that help. And I think I had to learn to be very like adaptable and to not think of it like I want to bring Reiki into hospitals or I want to bring energy healing into hospitals. It's more like I'm here because I want to help the patient in any way that I'm allowed to help them, and that does help them, I'll do that, even if I'm like checking my degree or my certificate at the door. No, and
yes, over here, the Reiki healers, they do offer Reiki, but they word it in a way that it's more of like a spiritual advisor or spiritual counseling is how they approach that. And then the Reiki practitioners do have to become registered ministers, and then with that, then they're able to go into the hospitals, and as I have, you're able to go in and perform spiritual counseling. So however they allow us, however it works, I think it's so wonderful that they are allowing it, because they are seeing through studies now, and of course I love to bring in the science just because it's so limited with energy healing that those that are more scientifically minded are less likely to accept. And now we have actual studies where we're showing that patients who are receiving Reiki, actually they are taking less pain medication. They're seeing their turnaround and healing is faster than without. So they're starting to document this and starting to see more of this, which I think is so wonderful.
It's amazing.
And I love the collaboration of the two. I mean, I have been through plenty of Western medicine. I've done everything from, the different modalities to the medications, all of it. And I wouldn't say, leave all of that behind and just do Reiki, but working together, it's a wonderful collaboration, because now you're healing, you're working with the physical body with your doctors, but then you're also working with your own emotional and spiritual health, on your own or with a practitioner. And between the two, I mean, the body is a whole unit, mind, body, spirit. It's all connected. So I think it's so wonderful. We're placing focus now on the entire system versus just one part of it. And I love that we're seeing this more in Western medicine too.
I love that we're seeing this, and I love that it's like the combination, because like in my case, like my dad passed away from cancer, and I've also had 3 relatives within the last couple of years that went through treatment. And they all survived, thank God, and they're all doing well. And for like all of them, literally the first thing I would say is they had excellent doctors, they had excellent medical care, the hospitals were fantastic. But the cases that I've had in my family, like more recently, where we did bring Reiki and meditation into it, like from a very early stage, because they had that personal connection to me, it was like a game changer in terms of the attitude. It's easier to stay positive if you're also working with your emotions on a daily basis, because I think it's when we try to ignore the fear or the frustration that then it kind of comes out and like overpowers us. And I would love to see Reiki in like every hospital, literally.
I love that. Yes, I do too. It really complements well with our traditional medicine. So I would love that too. And then you, in your new book, or your second book, I should say, in your chakra healing and magic, in this one, which is really great. I love that you have so many different meditations in there.
Thank you.
Quizzes on the chakras, crystal associations. It's just a really nice overall, like, someone needs to know about chakras and how they work, this is a really good one to help them identify where they need healing. But you also introduced that you've created this kind of newer method where you include astrology and using people's natal charts into their healing sessions. So tell me about that. How does their natal chart affect their own ability to heal, and how does it change the healing process?
I think where I see the natal chart influencing more than anything is actually like in the balance of 4 elements. So we all have like a mix of fire, air, earth, and water in our personalities. So fire is like the charisma, like passion, everything that kind of makes you like get up and want to go in the morning. Air has thoughts, beliefs, like things that we've learned from our surroundings, and it can flow and be quite easier. It can turn into kind of like a rigid structure that we're operating in. Water is emotions and empathy, and then like the earth part is everything that's like material or physical in our lives.
So is it an idea that if someone has more, earth in their chart, that they would be more inclined to heal better with earth, or they would do better with, say air or with fire? Like, how do you decide which healing modality would be better for them?
From like this point of view, I kind of see it as like a thriving and like awaken your potential in your daily life type of healing, and not so much like focusing on something like cancer or diabetes. But like the idea is, if I'm like, let's say I'm an entrepreneur, or I want to be, I need a lot of fire because I need a lot of energy to like inspire people, to hire people, to get them to like work on what I'm working on. Really like solid air to be able to communicate and think and have strategies, like empathy to build the connections with people and to feel like that richness in my heart through personal relationships with colleagues. And then earth brings it down to like the physical world so that we actually see results. I have very little fire and very little water in my natal chart. So like all my life, I'd have tons of ideas and I'd be like super disciplined and super responsible. But if it's like, Regina, take a risk, I would be like, no, I can't do this.
No, I can't.
And when I started to connect with Reiki, I feel like Reiki has a lot of water, intuition, and Reiki has a lot of fire. And that kind of like pushed me out of my comfort zone and got me doing things. And the idea of like healing with the astrology chart is kind of looking at the balance of elements. If they have like 4 planets in earth or 3 planets in fire, and where we can kind of like compensate what's missing so that people can actually take the steps that they need to take to do what they want to accomplish and to feel good about it.
I love that. And then you work with children a lot too, right? Yes. I know I've seen on your Instagram that you'll have, workshops for kids or classes that you have. Do you integrate some of this knowledge about astrology into these classes, or do you focus more on Reiki? And I mean, I feel like children are so open and intuitively guided already anyway, that Reiki is just really a natural, they pick it up. Like, it's just such a natural thing for them, especially like with my own kids. So do you bring some of these elements into there too? Or do you kind of focus more on Reiki or self-soothing? Like, what is your practice focus on for our children?
For kids. It really depends on the parents, and like it depends on how open the parents are. No, and so like I started teaching in Mexico in person, meditation, Reiki, astrology in a yoga school that's like fantastic. And so a lot of the women that were at the school, after a couple of years, I thought, okay, I'm going to start a Reiki class. But the school is like really unique in that it has like a mix of like all of the religions that you'll find in Mexico. And so there's like Jewish families, Catholic families, hippie alternative families. And so when I started doing the Reiki thing, Reiki kids classes, I thought, okay, what's like uniform for everybody? And that's like connecting with your heart and connecting with your emotions. And we kind of agreed from the outset to say, the spiritual side of Reiki, we're going to leave it out, or like the connection with angels, we're going to leave it out, because some of them will go down that route and some of them won't. And also because I'd been working a lot with adults that would have benefited from learning to deal with their emotions at a much younger age. And I felt like kids
absolutely.
are early enough
feel
that
like
you can get them, no?
Absolutely. Because why do we have to wait till we're older and we're adults and we've already suffered the traumas? I feel like let's give these kids those tools to help them get through the struggles of life, because there are going to be, and we want to give them as much support as they can so they don't end up holding on to these emotional traumas or these wounds or these old hurts, or they don't become old hurts. So I love that you're working with kids. I adore working with children, and especially our teens right now after this pandemic. There's been so much struggle, so much stress, so much confusion, with their school and their social circles. So it's wonderful. It's such a gift to give them this. Yes. And meditation as well, just to help them, kind of bring all that stress back down and help them release so they're not holding on to it.
And I work with really little kids too. Well, like 5 to 12. Yes. I actually, on my blog, it's called Diary of a Psychic Healer, I have like the curriculum for Reiki kids. So if anyone wants to take it and use it in their own classes, they can.
Perfect.
But what I noticed that was like a game changer was literally the week that I started teaching Reiki kids, the movie Frozen came out, and I was trying to think of how to explain it to kids. Like, what comes out of your hand? And I walked past a billboard for Frozen, and there's like Princess Elsa shooting blue out of her arms.
Blue ice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of told them, who's seen Frozen? Literally everyone's like raising their hand. And I'm like, today we're going to learn to bring energy out of our hands like you're Princess Elsa, but you're not going to freeze people. You're going to help make them a little bit happier. And they like got it completely. And
right.
They really like hearing about Mikao Usui, the founder of Reiki. And I kind of highlighted a little bit more the fact that he came from like a samurai family, because they also really relate
that's
to
very
that
cool.
completely.
Of course.
It's like a warrior. He looks after his community. They help other people. Like they're part of a team, so you're never by yourself. And giving them tools with Reiki and also with crystals and with like art boxes and creative things to be like, okay, if you're feeling sad, that's fine. What color is the sadness? The Reiki comes out that color. You make friends with it. You let it flow, and then it kind of goes away. And like they connect with it in a way that
really
like
open to it. Adults don't. Yeah. Well, we don't, we have a lot of inhibitions and trust issues, and children they're just so much more open in that way.
Yeah.
So,
and we have skepticism, no?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That they don't have yet, which is, one of those gifts of that childhood innocence. So we always love to discuss rituals and or practices that help raise our vibration. So do you have, a morning ritual specifically, or something that you do during the day that just helps set your day on a positive that you could recommend to, our audience to help them raise their vibes?
I think my ritual in the morning is like super grounded. I have like a very basic breakfast, and then I go to the gym. And then when I'm done with the gym, I do my first meditation. Like I mentioned, I have a lot of earth and a lot of air in my astrology chart. So it's like connecting with my physical body, making sure that I have like what I need to get started. And then like that working out in the morning, it kind of like kicks in a little bit more fire so that I can start my day with energy. And then the intuition brings the guidance in, so that like throughout the day, the steps that I'm taking, it's like based on what the meditation pulled me towards.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It's very simple.
I love meditation. Yeah. And that's the point, is keeping it simple helps us to keep going. When it becomes too complex, that's when we see, people tend to give up, like, oh, it's too much work. And that's why I love these like simple kind of, easy ways to connect, raise your vibration, and just start your day, a little bit more on the positive. So it has been such a gift to share energy with you today, Regina. Thank you so much for being part of Raise Your Vibes, and for all the life work, changing work that you're doing with our children, with people struggling with their health, and just raising awareness in general to energy healing and its benefits.
Thank you so much for having me. I
really appreciate it. I love talking with you always. And so can you tell us, where can people find your books, and where can they learn more about you? I know you mentioned Diary of a Psychic Healer, right?
Yes, so I have my blog. It's called Diary of a Psychic Healer. I actually started blogging when I signed up for my first intuition class in like 2010. So literally it's like whatever happened to me in class and what I saw, I started recording it. And I'm like a compulsive writer, so there's like tons of articles there. You can find my books through Diary of a Psychic Healer, but they're also on Amazon. And in terms of social media, I'm on Instagram under my name, Regina Choza, and Facebook as Diary of a Psychic Healer. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, absolutely my pleasure. And we're all connected. And when you vibe higher, I vibe higher, everybody else around us does too. So I love that we're able to, raise the vibes together. This is wonderful.
Thank you so
and
much.
Then, of course, to close, as I do with our shows, I want to leave you with a sacred Reiki Reiju blessing for your highest good. And you can learn more about Reiki and how it can create positive changes for your life at crystalreikihealer.com. So please, everyone, just take a moment to settle into your sacred space, whether it's in the car, at home, or just simply your intention to accept this moment of positive healing vibration. And whatever emotions come to the surface, whatever colors you feel, go ahead and just let them flow and heal as they transmute. We're going to begin by just sweeping down the aura, releasing any energy, dissonant energy attached, grounding yourself, and beginning with our crown and channeling that beautiful divine healing energy, that light, that love into your mind, releasing any difficult thoughts or emotions that you've been struggling with, to your ears, that you may hear and listen from a place of love, that all sounds that come to you resonate from a place of love, channeling that divine healing light to your brow, to your third eye, to your intuition, that you may be open to receive the messages you are meant to. Over your mouth, that you are able to speak from a place of love, and your throat, that you are able to create, communicate, listen, hear, speak from a place of love. Over your heart center, that all that you do, that everything that touches your life, the rest of the day, the rest of the week, will be from a heart-centered place of love. And then, of course, to your hands, if you want to just open your hands, palm up, and allow that Reiki to touch your hands, that everything you move through your day and touch will be guided from a place of love. And then sweeping that energy from the ground through your body, through your feet, your legs, your torso, and showering up and over that beautiful energy of love. And whenever you are ready to come back to yourself, please have some cool water to assist grounding. I am your host, Crystal Reiki Healer, Athena Bahri, and I'm so grateful to have shared energy together today, and with the wonderful support of our sponsor, Westwood Clinic. Living without pain is their gift to you. Join me next week here on KP Media TV for another episode of Raise Your Vibes. Wishing you all so much love, healing, and many blessings. And I'm so excited to announce my participation in this year's Mind, Body, Spirit Wellbeing Festival in London. I'll be leading a workshop called Raise Your Vibes, a crystal Reiki healing experience for balanced chakras on April 16th, 2022, and tickets are on sale now at mindbodyspirit.co.uk. I really hope to see you there. We would love to feature your brands and products on our show, Raise Your Vibes. Please contact info@raiseyourvibestv.com for sponsorship opportunities to raise awareness to your brand. Disclaimer: Reiki and other forms of energy healing shared on the show are meant to be supplementary healing practices. Always contact your medical licensed professional for questions or concerns regarding your physical, emotional, and mental health. Thank you.